Hello again. Welcome. This is Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics for this, the 2nd of March, 2949 or 2019 if you're stuck in the past. This presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics for the members of the Aurora Republic, a premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting for the first time, let me start by saying welcome. We are glad to have you with us. Love to hear more from you if you want to hear more from us. We're a lawful good organization focused on roleplay exploration and social interaction, are currently active in recruiting on Spectrum and Discord. Before we begin, I'd like to say hello to our newest member, Itora Svent, who joined us this week and went right into the verse and hustled up. Had never having played Star Citizen before and already got through his immigrant status and earned full citizenship right off the bat, which was amazing. I don't see any guests joining us in the Discord tonight, and rules of engagement is that we are streaming this on Twitch. So there's an 8-second delay from when I say something or flip a slide till it comes out over there. I am monitoring the Twitch chat along at the same time. So if you don't want to just unmute your Discord and ask in real time, which you are highly encouraged to ask your questions in real time, just interrupt me. That's fine. But if you type something out into the Twitch chat, I will repeat the question if I see it, and so that the recording will pick it up, and then I will answer it to the best of my ability. Tonight, we're going to discuss scanning, which is actually the second part of what I was trying to get to last week with sensors, but ran out of time due to some rather heinous server issues and that sort of thing going on. So I wasn't able to get all of the video and stuff that I wanted to get for it, but I managed to pick it up now, even though I was traveling most of the day today. So a little hustle up. This one should go very quickly because it is so small. All right, so basically we're going to talk about the other part of sensors, which is the scanning part, the active scanning controls and display, and some of the considerations that go into this, plus a little video demonstration also, so if you haven't used it. The way you get in there, of course, is your tab key. As you probably already know, that enters you into and out of scan mode from your normal HUD mode. Use of your trigger, you trigger down and hold, and that will charge the pulse up. You'll see it as the around the center reticle. You'll see clockwise from the 12 o'clock position, a white hazy bar will start circling around, and you can let go at any point around the clock face there as it charges up to when it makes a full circle. It's 100%, and that'll be the maximum range and power that you can put out when you release the trigger to send out that active scanning pulse. The scan angle starts at a 360-degree sphere around your spacecraft. You can use the C and V keys on your keyboard if you don't have these key bound to something on a joystick or etc. The C and V keys will narrow and widen the scan angle. So and they go in basically. They follow the power of 2, basically. So the first time you see it knocks it it'll say from 1 times to 2 times the other side, which means it's from 360 now to 180. So you're basically scanning the front 180-degree hemisphere, and then it keeps halving itself down for there until at the maximum narrowness of the aperture, which is 128 times. Think of it like like the aperture on a camera. It keeps zooming in. When you have it at its 128 times narrowest scan angle, it's basically shooting almost a pencil beam out in front of the spacecraft to try to get better discernment and more range. Obviously, the size of the scan angle will affect the range in which that pulse goes out. So assuming you charge it all the way to 100%, a maximum narrowness, so 128 times pulse, is a pencil beam that will go the farthest with the greatest resolution. But of course, it's very narrow, so you have to basically have whatever it is you're trying to scan right in that. Or if it's just out into the cosmos, you'll only pick things up that are within that angle. Notice that C and V key are also the same as your countermeasures on the keyboard, the default keys for the countermeasures. So it is a good thing to note that when you kick on the tab key into scanning mode, your countermeasures are disabled. So if you do this while you're in combat, or if somebody comes up and tries to, if you get jumped while you're scanning, your countermeasures are offline while you're in scanning mode. Or I should say the controls to command them with the keyboard if you don't have them keybound to something else. So here's the basic display, and I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit here and stall for about 8 seconds until it comes through Twitch. And yes, okay, so I'm seeing that you guys can see my cursor. So this is scanning mode, what it looks like. Your normal HUD goes away. You end up with these wide brackets around the outer sides of your HUD. You still have the same sort of crosshair with a circular reticle in front. Right here at this point, I've got about 50%. I've got the trigger down and I've charged it up to about 50% before letting go for the pulse at this point where I click this snapshot. So that's about the 51% point. And you can see over on the left side right there is the 1 times scanning angle. So the scanning angle right now at 1 times is the entire 360 degree. The scanning pulse will go out in all directions. That's really all there is to it as far as the displays for when you're in that mode. Now what you get as far as the returns is what we're going to talk about next. So what do you actually get when you send out an active scanning pulse? Now this is different than the way your sensors or this works in conjunction with your sensors. The sensors are looking for spaceship targets, navigational targets, that sort of thing. Within about 10 kilometers of your spacecraft in the games, and those things are looking to auto track and auto classify, auto identify those types of targets to figure out what they are. When you send out an active pulse, you're actually going to see a lot farther, but you're going to see a lot of different things. First off, you might get what's called a generalized return, and I have this in the video I've got. This is demonstrated where something that's probably outside of that 10-kilometer situational awareness bubble around you, you pulse out to get something like that, and you'll get a 3-dimensional holographic like wireframe box that'll be floating out there that'll last about as long as it takes a fully charged, 100% fully charged trigger pulse to cool down, because when you let it go, the pulse goes out, and then you'll see that that white circle that was bordering itself around the outside of your reticle will start winding down in reverse to the way it built as a cooldown. That generalized return, like I said, is just a 3D holographic wireframe box out in space, or if you're doing it out on a planet, part of that wireframe box may be down under the ground because it's just a hologram that's being generated inside your ship, inside your visual displays. But that basically says, hey, I got something out over there. Don't know what it is, but I did get a return of some sort. Now, this is obviously still very version 1 in 3.4.3. So there's going to be the roadmap has a lot of upgrades, V2, V3, and V4, all planned out in future patch releases. They're working on scanning of different flavors almost every single patch from here through 3.8. If you go take a look at them. A specific return versus a generalized return. Specific return basically will show up just like a sensor track, just like those auto sensor tracks that you get when somebody pops up within about that 10-kilometer-ish bubble where it goes boop and it puts the little inverted green Dorito over top of the guy, or orange Dorito over top of the guy. If you outside of that 10-ish kilometers, and this is only by observation. I didn't read 10 kilometers anywhere. I've just kind of noticed that it seems like your normal sensors will see most spacecraft within 10 kilometers, fighter-sized spacecraft. Obviously, the bigger the spacecraft, the farther away you're going to be able to sense it with your sensors. But a specific turn, if it's in sort of this gray area where it's closer than where you would see a generalized return, but not close enough to get into your auto track area, your auto track zone, then a sensor pulse may actually get enough information back on that return out there for it to build a sensor track target. And that's why, like I said, you'll see, even though he might be out there at 12 or 14 kilometers, you might still get the green Dorito over him versus the big 3D wireframe box. I don't know what those ranges are. We will have to experiment to figure out what they are. The last thing that you can do in there is the deep scan. And this is very similar for those of people out there who've been playing with a prospector and mining. This is the same kind of thing like you do with the prospector when you get within to about 200 meters of a rock, of a mineable rock, and you put the reticle on it, and then you wait the second the reticle is on it, it does this very focused deep scan into the rock to figure out what minerals are in it and at what percentages and how much does that rock weigh and what's its instability, et cetera, et cetera. This is a similar thing in the scanning mode that all the ships can do. If you put the reticle in scanning mode over top of a sensor target, particularly one of the sensor tracks that are within the green Dorito or orange Dorito, in other words, it does a very similar mechanic, and it scans inside the ship, and it'll tell you not only what kind of spacecraft that is, it will also tell you who's in there, and it'll tell you what the spacecraft status and personnel health status is. And if there's any cargo on board. So it actually gives you a lot of useful expanded info as far as who's inside and what is inside that ship. And you have to hold the reticle over the target about the same as like you do mining with the rock. It takes about 5 full seconds for it to do its voodoo. So, all right, so I'm gonna flip over to this video that I recorded earlier. Again, I'm going to basically mute it, and I'm going to hit play. So here I are again over Port Olisar. I got a couple of targets out there. I got actually a lot more than are showing up on the scanner because I think there's a lot of like dead ships that are like either people have had disconnects or whatever are there. But I kick into scanning mode and I just kind of fiddle with it for a minute, so I'll talk to you. So you go from your normal HUD. I'm in the Mighty Arrow again. I kick into, and first off I show you, okay, here's your normal sensor targets where you can like designate. This is focus reticle where you point at the guy, and then I have it on a button on my stick. Now I'm just kicked into scanner mode, and I'm not doing anything other than just holding the reticle over top of him. It comes to tell me it's a Drake Herald. It's unknown. Like I said, I don't think there's anybody actually in that one. There's an Avenger Titan. The pilot inside is False Banana, and he's 100%. And I just kind of fiddle around with that a little bit. Oh, by the way, I also had ESP on, so that just irritated me for a minute because it was pulling my nose back up to the guy I had originally targeted. So I turned that crap off so I can not have my nose pulled around where I didn't demand it to be. So yeah, there's False Banana in his Avenger Titan. He's 100%. This guy right here is a Mustang Alpha, Wee Rhyme. Confidence up to 99%. He's 100% healthy. Everything's looking good. So here's a scanner pulse. I took it up to 100. I've got 360. And I'm looking around to see if I got any returns, and I realize up in the upper right corner, oh, I actually got the 3D wireframe box. Okay, that's pretty cool. So I scan it up again, charge it up, let another pulse. So it's 10.3 kilometers out. So I actually decided to go out and see what that is. See, it's just a generalized return. Doesn't tell me what it is. Putting my reticle on it doesn't tell me any additional information. So I'm going to fly on out here and pulse it every time it times out. So 7 clicks out of the armistice zone. Doop. And it ends up getting close enough when I'm inside of about 6 clicks there. I can start seeing it's another Mustang Alpha with unknown, which typically means there's probably nobody in it. So that's about in a nutshell. Actually, I think I come up here and park it real quick. I'm going to skip forward and then start fiddling with scan angle so you can see it. I'm just aiming out in outer space. I'm looking around. So there's Skinner Lip. So that's that first guy I originally scanned that was in the 3D box. So now just notice he's a track. Now you see me kicking down the aperture here. I have, that's all the way down to 120. So now if I charge it up, I'm just going to scan within that tiny. That's like a pencil beam scan. You'll get better range, you get better fidelity, but it's a much narrower space. So, and you can change the apertures in and out with C and V on your Charlie and Victor on your keyboard. So that's that. Let's go ahead and close that down. Boom. All right. So very quick considerations, then we're done. So considerations for the active ping is really what I'm talking about. If a full-on actor beam will get active ping by charging that up and letting it go will get you longer range detections, and the scanner obviously will show you some additional improved information. However, there are disadvantages involved. First one is that you're increasing how much your emission. So if you're playing some sort of a stealth strategy right at that moment, think of it like submarines. That active ping is an active sonar ping. So yeah, you see farther and you see better, but everybody now sees you too because you just went bing and put out a huge dose of EM out across the spectrum. So that also increases the detection of you by your adversaries. The other thing I've kind of noticed a few times, people have done an active scan pulse, and for a moment nearby me, and I've actually for a moment mistook it for an EMP burst. So there is a potential there for somebody maybe thinking that you're doing something else, thinking that you're doing an EMP burst, and may take that as a hostile act. Probably not much, but if I can bite off on it, then somebody else could probably bite off on that too, going down that road. The other thing, now I know this is questions come up a bunch of times now on, hey, if we can do these scanning, can we do it with, can we go mining scanning even though we can't mine, with the ship? So maybe we have prospectors that are out floating around, but we can use other ships to go out hunting, go out searching for the prospector, and then we just call them into where the goodies are. And the answer is no, not right now. Don't know if that's going to be possible in the future. Right now, this prospector is the only one that actually can do mining scanning. I suspect they might be able to do something via components later on. That might be in the plan. I think I kind of heard that discussed. The other thing is, remember that this is still version 1, so it's got bugs and glitchy as shit. About half the time you pull the trigger to charge up, it doesn't register, particularly if you've been playing for a little while. So it seems like the more you scan, or the later, if you've been on the server for a while, been on the server for an hour or two, then all of a sudden the trigger feels like it becomes intermittent. The returns are glitchy. You'll ping out there and get no return, even though you just last ping got a return, 8 kilometers ahead of you, and you're flying towards it. You send out the other ping and it doesn't show up. And then you send out another ping and then it shows up, so there's all that kind of weird glitchinesses. And then, there's server lag that's definitely apparent in a lot of these things where, you put the pipper on top of the guy and it doesn't do anything for a sec. And then all of a sudden it goes, boop, and it'll start finally doing the scanning mechanic. So don't expect perfection, but it is something to play with and kind of learn, kind of figure out how it works at this, because it'll change a little bit in the future, I'm sure, as they tweak it and make it better. But it's got some utility now. So that's it in a nutshell, nice and fast, I hope. So I'll go ahead and wait for a few seconds if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question. I imagine probably not, but I'll just sit here and fiddle for the next 8 to 10 seconds while I wait for the Twitch delay to catch up and you guys to realize where we're at. Before I call it a night, and we go fly, and all of that goodness. Okay, that's probably long enough. All right, I'm going to assume there's no questions because nobody unmuted. So I'm going to say thank you very much, and that wraps this up for this installment of Academics with Foghorn. Hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions I didn't answer, please feel free to contact me via email, Discord, Spectrum, or of course the comments section below for the YouTubers, and I will answer to the best of my ability as quickly as I can. If you are part of the Aurora Public membership and haven't hit the follows and the subscribes, please do that immediately and enable those notifications so you can remain up to date when we're streaming or posting new content. If you're a visitor to this channel, please feel free to hit those subscribes and follows and all that sort of thing as well. And feel free to leave feedback because we actually do read it and it helps us improve our content. You can find out more information if you're interested, as you can see up on the screen there, at our website, aurorapublic.space, on Spectrum at robertspaceindustries.com/org/aurorarep. And, of course, we're on Twitch and YouTube pretty predominantly. That's all I've got. I'll see you next time. Signing off and wishing you a pleasant remainder of your morning, afternoon, and or evening. And thank you very much for watching.